Morning, everybody. I'm Bryan Slone. I'm the president of the Nebraska State Chamber of Commerce, and welcome this morning. We have an announcement to make, and I think it's going to be an important announcement, both in terms of blueprint, but also in terms of post-pandemic recovery for what is one of the most important industries in our state, which is manufacturing. As many of you may know, manufacturing is one of our largest industries in the state. 1 in 10 people in our state are employed in manufacturing. It is a key to our economic recovery. And as we think about manufacturing for the next 5 to 10 years, today we're going to announce an important development, which is the formation of alliance of a group of manufacturing associations who will all continue in their individual capacities, but are going to work together in a single alliance to move manufacturing forward and really try to make Nebraska even a much more of a leader, a peer leader in the United States around our manufacturing industry, creating jobs and opportunities for people across the state from Omaha to Scottsbluff. So just to introduce what's going on and how we got here, Phil Raimondo, who is the CEO of Balin. Phil, do you want to kind of kick this off for us?
Oh, what happened?
Unmuted by. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now? Is that better? Okay, I'm sorry. I put it on mute and I wasn't able to get it off mute, but I think it's okay now. So thank you. Thanks, Bryan. Apologize for the technical difficulties. I will definitely be upgrading my computer here shortly. But the exciting part of today is that you can look back at a whole bunch of different opportunities, whether it is the Blueprint Nebraska initiative. I think that's where there was a lot of ideas that generated, and we learned a lot about all these different organizations. But even back in the 90s, there were manufacturers in the state that always thought it would be a good idea for us to figure out better ways to grow Nebraska in the manufacturing sector in the industry that we're all in. So one of those people was my father, Tony Raimondo. He actually had a vision, and I'm not sure if this was one of his visions or just a dream of his, because the way this thing has happened in the last 18 months, starting with the first meeting of Blueprint Nebraska and then other organizations getting together, we've just seen some tremendous opportunities to work together. I know that each of the organizations are going to talk about their history and some of the things that they're thinking about doing under this new structure. But the NeMAC team has been very important. Scott Volk is going to share some thoughts about that. Jim Smith is going to share some thoughts about NAMC. And Mike is going to cover some ideas on what Nebraska MEP is able to do. And then Bryan's going to wrap everything all up. But we're just absolutely, I guess we're really excited about the opportunity to start working together better than we ever have. And when we get initiatives going, there's nothing that can stop Nebraska from, like Bryan said, 1 in 10 people are affiliated with a manufacturing company in Nebraska. Hopefully the state grows so that we keep that ratio, but it wouldn't hurt my feelings if 2 in 10. I know that Balin can hire 50 people today and we still wouldn't be covering all the bases. So we're very excited about the potential in Nebraska. with what we're doing. And I'm going to pass this on. Bryan, I'll let you take the lead again and share who's going to be speaking next. But thank you very much.
Hey, thank you very much, Phil. And thanks for you and TR's leadership for many, many years. I'm going to turn it over to Scott Volk from NeMAC to talk, and MetalQuest is his day job, to talk about NeMAC and their participation in this alliance. Scott?
All right, thanks, Bryan. As Bryan said, my name is Scott Volk. I'm the Vice President and COO at MetalQuest Limited in Hebron. I'm also a founding member, past chair, and incoming chair for NeMAC. NeMAC was started in December of 2011. We're the Nebraska Manufacturing Advisory Council. Our role in the state is we act as an industry-driven advocate and advisor to Nebraska state agencies and leadership to maximize our global competitiveness in manufacturing. We're advising directors and commissioners and staff of all the major departments in the state, DED, Department of Education, and Department of Labor, as well as elected officials and other state agencies. We also have a very close relationship with a lot of the area community colleges and universities. We work with all these people on business issues and opportunities, the effectiveness of manufacturing services. We recommend changes to expand and otherwise improve the offerings of manufacturing in the state. We're also coordinating and recommending action, services, and programs to enhance the competitiveness of Nebraska. So what we're really excited about here is the fact that, like Phil was saying, we have these different organizations that are all working in a state, but now we're going to be able to come together with a unified voice. There's been a lot of competition indirectly and unintentionally, with pulling from the same resources and all of us trying to do the same thing. And what this is going to allow us to do is work together as one. Nebraska has a huge opportunity to really be a high-tech leader in the manufacturing space in the world. And this alliance is going to allow us to put the resources into making sure that happens, and with a focus on a high-tech workforce. So we're very excited about that. I'll pass it back over to Bryan.
Well, thanks, Scott, and thanks for everything you've been doing in putting this together. Next, I'm going to have from NAMC, and actually also from Blueprint, former Senator Jim Smith, who's the current chair of NAMC and also is the executive director of Blueprint. Jim?
Thank you, Bryan, and thanks to Bryan and to the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce and Industry for their leadership in pulling this alliance together. It's a great honor to be a part of this alliance, and manufacturing plays such a pivotal role in the economy of our state, so this is fantastic. Phil touched on this a bit, but many of you know NAMC from its rich history with Dream It, Do It, and under the leadership of Phil's father, TR Raimondo. In 2006, NAM, the National Association of Manufacturers, developed the National Dream It, Do It initiative in response to the skills gap in the country. Nebraska became one of the first statewide programs under the leadership of TR Raimondo. The primary activities of NAMC fall into three categories of focus: informing students, families, and communities about careers and opportunities in manufacturing, working with educators to develop curriculum for industry needs, and connecting students and employers through internships and apprenticeships. NAMC is addressing the skills shortage through community partnerships, developing programs, and creating experiences in education for students related to education paths lead to careers in manufacturing and related industries. Recently, NAMC at its August 17th board meeting approved the restructuring of NAMC to align with community college regions to better address the regional manufacturing needs for customized workforce solutions. So that, in a nutshell, is NAMC. And again, it's a tremendous honor to be a part of this group.
Hey, thank you very much, Jim, for everything you're doing, not only at NAMC, but with Blueprint Nebraska. Let me turn it next over to the Nebraska MEP group affiliated with the University of Nebraska, Mike Nagle. Mike? Just gonna have to have you unmute. There you
Thank
go.
you. I'm Mike Nagle, the Associate Director for the Nebraska Manufacturing Extension Partnership. We're hosted by the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. Our mission is to help small to mid-sized manufacturing companies throughout the state to help with improvement as far as cost effectiveness for continuous improvement, supervisor training. We've been sponsored by the university for 8 years. Prior to that, the MEP's been in Nebraska for about 20 years. So we are part of a national network. So we have MEP centers in all 50 states and Puerto Rico. So we do have a close alliance of specialties and experts throughout the US that we can draw upon. And also with the College of Engineering, if there's any unique opportunities that a manufacturer may have, we do have those resources available. We also have a close collaboration with the Food Processing Center at Innovation Campus. So we're out and about doing training, food safety for food processing companies throughout the state. And from the MEP's perspective, we're happy to join this alliance because we all want to help grow Nebraska and grow manufacturing in Nebraska.
Mike, thank you very much. And let me finish from a chamber standpoint to put this just in a little bit of perspective. Prior to the pandemic, manufacturing was clearly one of our fastest, if not our fastest growing industry in the state. And manufacturing is probably not what most people perceive it historically. Manufacturing is also an area where the fastest paced technology advances are going to occur over the next 10 years. So for people looking for technology jobs, there's going to be no better place than manufacturing. And manufacturing today, even today, manufacturing jobs average generally about $20,000 more per year than non-manufacturing jobs in this state. So in terms of economic opportunity of putting people to work, growing our economy, manufacturing is really going to lead the way. And it's really important right now for Nebraska to take advantage of opportunities, and particularly as we heard this morning in another event that it's expected that a lot of the supply chains, as much as 50% of the supply chains are going to move from foreign countries back into the United States. And that is a really important issue for Nebraskans all over the state. And so from a state chamber standpoint, our job every day when we wake up is how do we create jobs and careers and business opportunities, and how can we create a business environment in this state that is the best among our peer states. And that was also the goal of Blueprint Nebraska. And so having these groups come together, whether it's the Dream It, Do It education side or the NeMAC's capability to bring government and business together around developing manufacturing, or Mike's and the MEP's view of really helping small and mid-sized manufacturers compete and become more efficient. Pulling that all together along with the chamber's resources across the state, we hope to very much supercharge manufacturing in Nebraska along the lines of the Blueprint Nebraska initiatives. And practically what that means, I'll just give you a few examples. In terms of workforce and working with our educational institutions, K through 12, community colleges, and four-year institutions, manufacturing can be one voice. And for the educational institutions, that's really important. We can create public-private partnerships now across the state at scale and scope that could make a huge difference for manufacturing. In terms of public awareness, we can all speak with one voice and really reintroduce the public to what manufacturing is like. If you would go to Scott Volk's operations today, you would see robots from one end of the floor to the other. It's a new age for manufacturing. It will help us really develop the technologies, the manufacturing technologies that we need in this state, and that will require public-private partnerships between government, education, and private business as well. This alliance is going to form the basis for those conversations and those public-private partnerships to happen. And so we couldn't be more excited about this. It's a big step forward for Nebraska manufacturing. And we're just happy that you could be with us today to be part of this announcement. And so if there are any questions, Holly, I'm sure we'd be happy to answer them. And I think questions should be asked through the Q&A function.
That's correct. I don't have any questions quite yet. So we can maybe give it another minute or so and then we could adjourn. Maybe I could go ahead and ask a question on behalf of others. What would be next steps for this group?
Yeah, so when you, and I'll let some of the others jump in here, but when you think about this group, there's a couple things that happen. One core piece of this is creating a networking of manufacturers across the state, both in terms of best practices around technology, but also best practices around the health and welfare of our employees at the current time, and also strategies around supply chain and distribution. How we take advantage of the current situation in the world where Nebraska can grow pretty dynamically its manufacturing capabilities. Scott, do you want to jump in on what you see as sort of next steps?
Yeah, so I think one of the things we've actually been doing for several months now is we've been having every other week calls with manufacturers, which have been very successful and allowed us to start to align and discuss some of the problems we're having. So I think a continuation of that is definitely going to be in order to keep everybody moving forward. We as each individual group kind of need to circle the wagons and discuss how we're going to move things forward and how we're going to start working together. So I think there's going to be a lot of work going on in the background for the next several weeks, several months, trying to get everything in line. But I'm optimistic because I know there's a lot of excitement, a lot of energy going towards this and making this happen. So I think there's just going to be a lot of discussions coming up of identifying exactly where we need to focus first. You know, there's a lot of issues out there that we need to tackle, but we can't do it all at once. But the beauty of this alliance is we can all come together and figure out the main topics we have and then figure out the best group and the best people to move forward with that. So we are going to be able to move things forward a lot faster than we ever have before because of this alliance. But, you know, first things first, we need to make a priority list and figure out which things we need to hit first.
Scott, I remember one example of this is in the very early days of the pandemic in March when we were having these initial conversations and we were just bringing people together. We spent 2 days on the phone talking about how to take temperatures of people coming in buildings long before manufacturers had great guidance. And it was really terrific. Manufacturers across the state shared their best practices and that really helped. And we've done that on a biweekly basis ever since. So these conversations and pulling people together at challenging times is really important.
I would agree with what Scott is saying. And for those of you that have been on with the manufacturing summit over the last number of days or have watched Bryan on the road during State Chamber of Commerce fall forums, you will hear about the opportunities presented to Nebraska in the area of manufacturing and supply chain, the reshoring and the onshoring of manufacturing in our country due to the trade challenges as well as the coronavirus really really focusing us in on shortening those supply chains. So there are tremendous opportunities that are at our doorstep or actually on our doorstep. And there's a sense of urgency I think we all feel about having to move quickly on this. Nebraska is really fortunate that it's a smaller, nimble economy. It's a nimble state. It's got great leadership. We have a great plan and we have great leaders just like those that are assembled on this panel. And so having a unified, united voice of manufacturing, I think is a huge start down this path. But we also have to really be aware that each one of these groups brings a set of strengths to the table. And I think we're in this stage right now of trying to understand what those strengths are and what role each group can play in this unified voice for manufacturing. But I'm absolutely confident, as Scott touched on, that we're in a great position to move quickly and to respond to the opportunities that are on our doorstep.
And Jim, we have a question regarding is this group going to work closely with the agribusiness sector? And it's probably a good lead-in. As manufacturing has the ability to speak with a singular voice and to convene as a group, I can think of two industries right away that this group will work closely with. One is agribusiness, clearly, because agribusiness manufacturing is the largest sector of our manufacturing sector in Nebraska. But it's important for people to know it's not just agribusiness. I mean, pharma and medical is probably the second largest piece of our manufacturing in this state, but also our transportation sector. What makes manufacturing such an opportunity in Nebraska is our central location combined with the transportation networks. We have two of the major railroads and many of the major motor carriers in the country, and the centralized location. As you think about supply chain logistics and marrying that with manufacturing, those two industries, particularly agribusiness and transportation, are close partners with manufacturing. And I know in your blueprint report, those three really, if I'm right, if I remember right, Jim, were where all the technology jobs are going to move the fastest in the next few years.
That's right. You know, among the, you look at the top 20 industries nationally, they are, you know, when you rank them in terms of the potential for automation in the industry, the three industries that Nebraska is the strongest are the top three: manufacturing, agriculture, and transportation and warehousing. So I'm glad that question was answered, because I'm at fault oftentimes because I talk about manufacturing and I do not verbalize the importance of agribusiness and how it is connected and associated with manufacturing. And I think you expressed that well, Bryan, that it's really important that we communicate that as well to people across the state so that they understand that this is a statewide initiative, this is a statewide alliance, and agribusiness plays an absolutely critical role. And this is, quite frankly, a way in which we bring vitality back into our communities across our state.
Bryan, if you don't mind me jumping in,
No,
we
please.
already have agribusinesses involved in a lot of the manufacturing alliances that we have, or coalitions we have in the state. So they're all going to fall under this alliance. So we're only going to be able to strengthen that. But, you know, many leaders already, I've worked with several different agribusinesses with the groups I'm involved in. So we're all together. Agribusiness has been lumped in with manufacturing, like Bryan said, for a long time in this state. So it's kind of one and the same. So very exciting where we're going to be able to go with this.
I do agree with Scott's approach as far as, you know, with the priorities, establishing those that we can knock off the quickest. One of my personal aspects from my manufacturing days was the challenge of relying upon China for electronic parts or electronic assemblies. That would be something I know Jim had mentioned about bringing back to the U.S. some of the manufacturing sectors or products that we've lost. So that would be something of interest from a Nebraska manufacturing perspective that we can focus on more of a longer term basis.
And I think the one last note I'd put on this is sometimes we get caught up in policy issues of a rural-urban debate, and that's always frustrating for a guy like me who grew up in rural areas in Nebraska. Manufacturing is this whole ability to drive our economy with manufacturing growth and supply chain growth is not an urban and rural issue. Manufacturing is very important to Omaha. It's very important to Columbus. It's very important to Hebron, Scott. It's very important to Scottsbluff, where I come from. This is something that is truly statewide. And Jim, I know in Blueprint Nebraska, 3 out of the 15 initiatives were related to Nebraska when you looked at our ability to grow our economy. So with that, Holly, are there any other questions?
I think we can let everyone get on with their day. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Happy
Congratulations,
Manufacturing Month.
Bryan. It's a major initiative.
And as always, go Big Red.